you have to be honest with yourself if you're using it to numb or using it to medicate, right? If you're using it to medicate and using it responsibly sounds like it's got like endless possibilities for good. If you're using it to numb, be honest with yourself that you're using it to numb, right? And you got to get to what's underneath there. Having a child who like turned to it for the numbing. For me, it's still like I can't even smell it without like getting triggered. Like you hear what MaryFrances said, like that it has gotten her patients off some really what could be very addictive medications.
Welcome to Spark Me, a podcast for women who know life is just getting interesting.
Each week, we spark great conversations, share lived experiences, real resources, and tap into the collective wisdom that comes from learning together.
If you're looking for connection, not perfection, fresh ideas, and a community where you truly belong,
then pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Welcome to Spark Me.
Well, hello there, Michele. It's so great to see you.
Hey, Liz, I like your glasses. I know everybody can't see them, but they're very cool.
Well, I have to wear the glasses because I would not be able to see you without the glasses on, which is very pathetic statement at this point.
I'm right there with you. In fact, the other day I was looking at, I had put on makeup without my glasses. And then I was
no. I know where this is going.
It was a rude awakening. When I had them on and I looked in the mirror and I was like, whoa!
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I can't quite explain it. It was a little, it was bad. And I'm like, all right, we need to.
My older sister always insists on having a magnifying mirror in the guest bathroom when she comes to visit. And I never understood it.
Oh, I get it.
But now I understand the reason for the magnifying mirror.
I don't know why I don't have one yet. Probably because I would be obsessed. When I go to a hotel that has them, I'm like, where are they? I'm going to get where's the tweezers?
Oh, I know. It's the worst. It's the worst. Like, how did nobody tell me that was there? Had to have been there for months.
I know. It's
just, the joys of being a woman.
Yes, fantastic. But anyway,
so we had such a great time last week with your sister. I loved her. Oh my gosh.
I had warned her before the podcast. I'm like, when we start talking about the medical marijuana, we're going to ask some tough questions,
Yeah.
Because, that was something that like, when we were talking to Prenza Zane and I know I have a sister and she's cannabis care consulting. Like it's seeing these two sides of the same thing, of this herb, and like how it can help lives and hurt lives in equal measure. Right? I really thought that was an important conversation to have because we've all heard the cases of it being abused, and it's like it's a tough one for me, quite frankly, to have a son who's struggling and a sister who's helping people, and not hard for me, but it's like,
we had such a great time last week with your sister. I loved her. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. She is fun. And boy, does she know how to enjoy life too. But like everybody, as one of my friends said, actually, always to bring it back to Beth Toohey, it was her husband, Pete, is the one who said to me, everybody in life gets their fair share of suffering and taxes. So, even when you kind of have, as we say, crack the code, when she was talking about my parents and, having to go through that part of everything, we all can go through it. It's just your sort of how you get through it and what your attitude is and how you come to the table. Because you can get through hard things too.
You have always talked about your sister, MaryFran, in like great respect. Mm-hmm. Always a lot of great respect for your sister. And you've always used the term, she cracked the code of life. And I never really understood it until I got a chance to meet her last week via the interview. But here was one of the, I think, biggest takeaways that I had from that interview. And that was her willingness. Like she had planned, for much of her life and trained and spent hours upon hours studying, training to become a surgeon. And then when she got to see what she would have to give up as far as a balance in her family life to be a surgeon, she pivoted into a different type of medicine that would give her a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then she did it again when she started her own company, the Cannabis Cares company. And that was exploding and so successful. And she said, well, wait a minute. I want to go to my kids' soccer games. I don't want work to drive my schedule all the time. So she scaled back on her business a bit. And that takes so much confidence and courage and self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
to be able to look at opportunity and say, that's not what I choose. I choose this.
Yeah.
And I feel like women really struggle with that. And your sister somehow was raised in a way where she understood what was most important
Yeah.
and honored that. And that was very impressive to me.
Yeah. I think everything you just said is so true because it is very hard to give up those things that, you know, come with like a little prestige and like, you kind of,
Hmm.
it's, it, it's kind of like, what do you, and I fall victim to it. You know what I mean? I identify
Yeah.
so much as architect, entrepreneur, like having a business, like, it almost just like becomes cellular. It's on the cellular level. This is who I am, and this is what's important,
Hmm.
and I could never give it up, and da 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 da. And I just have such respect for Mary Fran at a young age, right? Sort of
Yeah.
thinking like, hmm, I know I want kids, and I know I want a lifestyle where I can be there with them. Like it's just what I want. That's like it was her choice. It's,
Hmm.
what do you want? It was her choice. She was making these choices early, kind of looking ahead and saying, "I love surgery. I'm passionate about it. I've dreamed about it my whole life, but it's not going to give me the family life I want. And therefore, what are the medical, residencies that are shift, as we said, shift, SHIFT, that,
Hmm.
and I can consider one of those. Like that to me, even now, sort of blows my mind, like that's pretty mature thinking for that age. But I also love that she was honest. Like when you're cracking the code of life, like there was no like, oh yeah, I was just able to like, she's like, no, I'm really lucky. I have a great husband. He's the primary
Yeah.
breadwinner. And so I was able to do these, that helps a lot. And like it really
Right.
helps our lifestyle. And I want to acknowledge that it's not something that like everybody has. And that's just, oh, you just do it, everyone, just go do it. No, it's like, I got lucky. I got a
Hmm.
great guy. And that helps, like my income is sort of secondary. And, but at the same time, like it's great, but still she said, and she acknowledged, but even if that wasn't the case, I would still be making choices. I would live with a lot less to still be able to do what I'm doing. She's a very nice lifestyle.
Exactly.
But if I didn't have this nice lifestyle, this wasn't the circumstance, I'd try to figure out a way to still be able to do this. And I might have to give up some stuff to do that, but I'd do it. And I believe she would, All right.
I think that that's just something that I think a lot of women struggle with it. And here's the other thing, and we didn't get into this too much, but every once in a while, in fact, I just had this conversation with somebody that had to, for family reasons, had to step away from a position that she absolutely loves, like totally. She loves it. She's so good at it. I mean, it's phenomenal, but it's just right now that can't be the priority.
Mhm.
And I knew what she was thinking because I've had to do this myself on occasion. And I said, don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
That I said, your family and your friends understand why you're doing this, and nobody else matters. But that's the other component to making those types of choices is the judgment that
Mhm.
you get from, people that for whatever reason think that they have a right to judge your life choices, which of course they don't.
Yep.
Um, but but that's real, facing that judgment and ignoring it. And I think that a lot of times people make the wrong choice simply because they're afraid of the appearance of what it would be if they made a different choice.
I think that's the one side of it, Liz. And if I think on the other side, and I really want to be honest to this side too, because it's very powerful. It's like, but wait a minute. Like if you are capable of these things, if you could be the greatest surgeon as a woman, right? Like, shouldn't you honor that too? Right? Like, shouldn't you honor being a woman who can do these kind of really incredible and amazing things? And what if you're not, what if you don't have a primary breadwinner and you are, right? And having that
Hmm.
career and doing that thing is like, is important to your family as well. So maybe you don't get as much of the time over here that would be nice to have, but there are reasons why that are really important and like very valid reasons, so I think to your judgment thing, like I don't judge either way. Right? Like
Right,
people are
exactly.
making the choices that are right for them, right? And what they want balances differently, right? So like
Well, right, like the perfect example is like when you're the high-powered career person and it's time to bring snacks to your kids' school and you bring a box of Oreos,
yeah.
right? And the other moms are like, "Oh, no homemade chocolate chip cookies." And you're like, "No, the Oreos is what I can do today, right?" Now,
Yeah.
nobody's going to ever remember that you brought Oreos, but
Yeah.
that little bit of judgment by the moms who are at home baking cookies or
Yeah.
whatever they did to bring in homemade snack items, that that is a real judgment that I think women struggle with. I'm not sure that men face the same thing, but I don't really know because I'm not a man. They
Yeah.
may in a different way and I just don't know. But women definitely I think face that judgment.
And
um
people aren't always aware, like we're not aware of other people's stories, right? So in that same
yeah.
scenario, if I were the mom, I would definitely be the mom bringing Oreos. You'd be lucky to get Oreos. I'd probably bring Krispy Kreme donuts. They're right down the street, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, it's not going to be something homemade for sure. But like,
Mhm.
if I show up to that room, whatever it might be, if I even remembered, right, which I might not, if I'm being honest, like whoever in that room does not understand I'm a single mom. I have two kids that, like have their
Mhm.
sets of challenges. I'm running a business. I am the primary only breadwinner. So I do have to care about that business and being good at it. I
Yeah.
am good at it and I want to be good at it. I'm proud of being good at it? And so like you've got to know people's stories, right? And
Right.
it just you can't judge, in any circumstance. But I do love that we all like, and I think that's the thing. Like we can make our choices, and sometimes we can, like Mary Fran, you can make choices more liberally, right? Like
Mhm.
you can say, well, I only want to work 2 days a week, and I want to do this because you have the cushion and the backup. But like, and but I still, I just think it's important to just honor people who want to I have another friend who had a very high powered position and stepped away because for now she does want to be there to watch her son who's really good in sports.
Mhm.
She wants to be at those games and she wants to do that. So she stepped down knowing when he's out of high school, she can go right back, like, but
Yeah.
this is the decision she has made for now because it works for her. And I think that's great. Like I like and so for Mary Fran, I really enjoyed that conversation. And I was really proud that like, she had the foresight back then to make a hard decision and say, this is what feels right for me. And
And I think that you just nailed it because that's it. It's a personal decision.
Yep.
And it's your, it's your life. You're the one that has to live it. You're the one that has to, at the end of the day, face the mirror, make the choice that suits you, and
Yeah.
don't worry about anybody else. And don't worry if you've invested years of training in one direction. It's never too late to make the right choice for
Yeah.
you. It's interesting because I came at it with literally no knowledge.
Yeah.
I had my perceptions of, my bias is that I felt like m- medical marijuana was geared more towards a state process towards normalizing it so that we could get legalization so we could get more taxes. That's my bias. Okay. I've never smoked marijuana. I've never done any drug whatsoever. I'm more of a take two Tylenol, go to bed, and the headache will go away kind of person. So for me, it was an absolutely unknown world. And it was very interesting to hear her medical perspective of the research of where marijuana can be truly an effective medicinal approach,
Yeah.
where I found it very telling and frankly so typical of government is that the doctor prescribe, gives you the medical marijuana card, and then the patient is like left out in the cold to get the proper there, your sister said there are like 1,200 varieties. They go to a dispensary and they may not even end up getting the thing that solves their issue. It may exacerbate their issue,
Yeah.
and that's totally like a Department of Health failure. And I'm sure if it's happening in Pennsylvania, it's probably happening in states across the country because everybody uses the same regulations. And I'm like, that is ridiculous to me. There should be, if this is a legitimate medicinal process, you should be able to have the doctor follow the patient just like if you were prescribing any other prescription medicine. It's a prescription medicine. That's how I sort of was like, I get where she's coming from, where there's clear, modalities that it's helpful, but but the way the regulations are structured, I feel like we've sort of created this gap
Yeah.
for patients.
She acknowledged that because there is, she talked about the card factory, right? Like that some
Right.
places are just doing this to make money. They don't really care. They're like, what do you got? Okay, here you go. Here's your card. Here's your card. Here's your card. And that's the unfortunate side of it again, right?
Hmm.
Is that here's this medicinal quality that could be so helpful if used appropriately. And what I also heard was most of the medicinal properties don't need the high to go with it, right? Like you can get the benefits without that. And so you don't even have to worry about that. Um, so, but I also heard her say, like, she can't stay up on all those things, right? Okay, but fair enough. I think maybe somewhere in the middle is there, like, here's what you need to be treated for. Like here's and there and it should be these things that treat that. So you shouldn't be able to go in and just get anything, right? It should be
Right.
like
I agree.
the person working there should
Structured.
say, okay, so here's what it is. Here are the things, like, should it or should it not have THC? Like, because that should not be for everyone, right? Like, there are clear cases where you should not be able to do that because there's going to be misuse. But like, and so now the marijuana pharmacist or whatever the proper term is, should only give something within that range. I think that's where it starts to have real, true medicinal, like the way of giving it matches, what it's intended to be.
Like a more holistic approach where, she used the example where if somebody is dealing with anxiety issues and then they take something that, you know, and they don't know any better, they end up taking a marijuana that actually exacerbates anxiety.
Yeah.
Well, now you've compounded the problem. And that was just really such an interesting conversation. And I never would have known anything about it had we not been talking to your sister.
Gave me a lot of food for thought. You're like, I'm happy there are MaryFrances out there, and then I worry, where my son did end up getting the card, right? Like, I'm like, that clearly they weren't looking too close, right? Like,
Right.
or,
Right.
he snowed somebody, right? Which is very possible. And then his only intention was to go and misuse it, get stuff and misuse it. So I don't know, like, and then people have bad intentions there. Like sometimes, I don't know, maybe you can't do anything. But I think that's what you were saying. There should be a way to make sure that people can't misuse it. Like it says this, so that's what it should be, right? Um, it certainly, I don't have all the answers yet, but it certainly started a conversation that I was like, yeah, hey, wait, why? Well, they can get anything. They can go in with this card and get 70% THC, and as MaryFrance, that, unless you're dying of cancer, you shouldn't need 70% THC. I think there is a good way to use it. Unfortunately, I think there's very easy to misuse.
Well, and then here's another sort of this is like a side story, but a couple of years ago, I was with my college friends, and we always try and do like a weekend together if we can, if the schedules work out. And we were talking about one of the kids that had just graduated from high school, and he went and got his he went and got trained as an electrician and got an apprenticeship, but he wasn't able. He was a kid that was really affected by COVID and had a lot of anxiety as a result of COVID, and he managed that anxiety with a medical marijuana card. The problem was he couldn't get hired by the union because he couldn't pass the drug test.
Mm.
So he was using marijuana responsibly. He was using it for an anxiety, medical issue, but because the laws, for electrical contracting, it require drug testing, so there's another example of, we quick passed the medical marijuana thing, but we didn't actually fix the underlying other laws that prevent, a perfectly, and we need electricians, and here's a great kid and he's a great worker and he can't get a job as an electrician
Yeah.
because he needs medical marijuana to manage his anxiety issues.
The unintended consequences, right? Like we think we did
Exactly.
something over here, but it's still hurt. It's still, didn't think about it over there. I have to say the other kind of thing I didn't know were about the creams, right? And like, that sounds like, again, there's like, I really would kind of learned how many, like, really, there's a lot of positive stuff too, like the creams that can help with
Totally.
can, get somebody, ambulatory for a little bit if they need it. That's I've seen it in the terminal patients, like,
Mhm.
so like a lot of things, I think it's just like, how do the regulations need to catch up? How much regulation should there be? Like, how do you do something over here that doesn't, like in your friend's case, here's somebody using it responsibly. Unfortunately, like, probably the testing is because a lot of people aren't, like,
Right.
so it's screening out even the good candidates, because it's really intended to screen out the majority, probably, is my guess, if people are, maybe that there's a reason that those tests are in place.
And I think it's sort of, and this, we've seen this story before, certainly with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, right? Where, a study comes out and says it causes breast cancer. So a generation of women didn't, have that as they didn't feel like it was an option to manage menopause symptoms because of the stigma related to a single study, right? That was sort of, misstated at the press conference. Well, your sister really talked about the stigma of medical marijuana to help with a variety of conditions.
Yeah.
And I think that she's right. I mean, I think there needs to be more education so that if somebody can't get a hip replacement, but they suffer with extreme pain because of osteoarthritis in their hip, well, CBD cream, to your point, could be a game changer for quality of life for this person. But because they think that medical marijuana or marijuana is just about getting high, they don't even realize that there's like a medicinal cure, not cure, but help for them. And so I think that that was something that your sister really talked about.
Absolutely. And then Liz, I'm going to keep going back and forth because this is the internal conflict I live with, right? Like, so I have learned recently that my son, who again, has kind of has more struggles. He's like one day he's like, "Hey, mom, I was listening to your podcast." I'm like, "What?"
Hey, that's right.
So I'm in my head going, "Okay, if he's listening to this conversation, I want to be clear that me saying that there are good properties to this is not me condoning the misuse of it, right? Because what I do
Mhm.
over and over is it's just a plant. It's not bad. Mom, like, all the things that you can say to promote the good use of it would be the things he would say, I'm not misusing it. Like, look, all this, it's just this, it's not a big deal. Da, 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 da. And and like you can delude yourself is what I'm saying. So I I, I think, it's important to to speak very clearly that like it is it is just a plant and it is all these things, but it is also it can be a very potent and uh,
Mhm.
and it can be dangerous at levels that are too high, and that it can, if you're using it to numb, as MaryFrances said, I think you have to be honest with yourself if you're using it to numb or using it to medicate, right? If you're using it to medicate and using it responsibly sounds like it's got like endless possibilities for good. And on the flip side, and it is the key question, if you're using it to numb, be honest with yourself that you're using it to numb, right? And you got to get to what's underneath there. That, as Brenda said, uh, it's it's the solution. It's the problem, not the solution, right? Like, or wait, it's like the drugs are the problem. The drugs are not the problem, they're the solution to the problem. So if you're using marijuana as the solution to that underlying thing, it's not. If that underlying thing is a mental or kind of something that you're trying to numb, and not like a pain numb, not like your leg that you need to walk. If you're using it to numb emotional pain or traumatic pain, or you know uh, then take a second look. Really be honest with yourself, because that's not the intention that I was hearing from Mary Fran.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think the last thing that I would just say, as far as the interview with your sister, was I I was very empathetic when she talked about being the daughter that had to advocate for your parents when they were ill, be the translator to the family of what was going on with your parents,
Yeah.
and also have the sole responsibility of understanding where this was headed for your parents and grieving for your parents all in one, all of those roles she had to play. um I just found that to be so, frankly, honest, and also something so relatable to other women, because I feel like so often women are wearing multiple hats like that.
She carried that so beautifully. It was really difficult, Liz. Like, she was being pinged by her five siblings constantly and expected to have the answers. She's not, an oncologist, right?
Mm.
She's not a neurologist in my dad's case. Like, but she understood the language better, so we were just all kind of expecting her to have the answers. And it was a difficult time, and she was very patient with everybody. Kind of kind and patient most of the time because well, every now and then you have to find your boundary and say, hey. But when she said she read that scan and she knew she was reading my mom's death sentence, like, I got very emotional personally hearing that, because it just kind of brought me back to the time and kind of remembering all that. And we're just lucky to have I was very lucky to have I'm lucky to have my sister sort of on the medical front, and then
Hmm.
siblings who were handling so many other things, from caregivers to finances to the everything, legal stuff, everything. um I honestly had the easiest role there because I had siblings handling that. So I had the honor of, like, being able to take my dad out that was my sort of how I'm gonna take dad out every week,
Hmm.
give my mom a little break, and just like, that's what I can do because I have very capable siblings handling other stuff, and I was so grateful. But my God, what she had to shoulder, it was a lot. It was a lot. Two parents at once. Um, and like I said, I was grateful in the moment, not even just in retrospect. I was grateful in the moment to have her, because I couldn't have even begun to process or understand what was happening, without her. And just even when they went to the hospital, and like MaryFrances so respected there that, like, it was helpful. Yeah, that one still gets me, Liz. But yeah, we were very,
Yeah.
very lucky. And I know there's a lot of people out there who can relate, you know. And I just
Right.
right now I just want to say to all of them, like, I'm so sorry, and hang in there, and you'll get through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough season of life, and unfortunately, everyone, gets a turn at it for sure. But you had a great support system, and we said this, you know, uh, several episodes ago when we were, after you lost your parents, the way that your family came together. I mean, you were together all along, but stayed together after your parents passed and maintained those traditions has got to make your parents so proud,
Yeah.
because that's a living legacy. And you reflect it, and your sister Mary Fran reflects it, and I know your other siblings. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see. So
Thanks, Liz. I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. I really appreciate that on behalf of all of my siblings. Thank you for that. Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your sister with us. I definitely would love to have her back on the podcast. She was fascinating, and I learned so much. And she really made me think about my own, you know, like making sure that I'm making the choices that resonate with me versus doing what I think I should be doing because it's what I've always done.
I look forward to our next guest and our next Spark Short breaking it down. This was really fun.